I heard this thing the other day and it really nailed it for me is we're not working from home, we're living at work. And I feel like I'm starting to see the people I work with, like they're my family. And like, these are that was a big moment in my life.
This week's show, I thought we would call, wait, who am I again? And the reason that I went there was because I find that one of the things that's happening during this COVID time all over is that we are saying and doing things that we're just like, I don't even recognize that person. The insight there is that a lot of times that new person has something kind of really special, I think, to offer that we can really learn from. So not that we can learn from this guy, but my guest today is Blair Herter.
I was like, you were setting me up the wrong way, dude. There's nothing from this conversation. But whoever it is you're bringing on after me, that guy sounds great. And I'm going to stick around and listen to whatever that conversation is.
I'm sure that guy, though, won't have the home and hearth that you have set up for us here. So,
I mean, I knew that this was important. I couldn't remember if it was a video podcast, but I said, just in case, let me completely redo my house. I've installed a fireplace into the wall. It's not just a television on YouTube with 10 hours of free fireplace footage. It's very much a wall. So you're welcome. Welcome to my humble abode.
Good call. Good call. So you are currently the Vice President of Content and Partnerships at Comcast/Spectacor. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff involved to unpack there. But yes, so the Vice President of Content Partnerships and Brand Development at Comcast Spectacor, which is a division of Comcast that houses all of the sports, live events, and gaming initiatives. So in our world, a Philadelphia Fusion, which is an Overwatch League team, a partnership with SK Telecom, T1, which is a massive League of Legends team over in Korea. We're building an esports arena in Philadelphia. And then coming at some point in the future, we are relaunching G4, the storied and kind of legacy, video game network that a much younger, de-bearded, thinner me participated in as well. So it's been a bit of a homecoming for me, which we can get into. But yeah, so I run essentially content partnerships is branded content. Once we have content to show people and brands are attached, I'll do that. And then the brand development stuff is marketing and stuff like that. So so it's been a fun ride. I've been there 4 months and it's been really weird to launch, to build a thing from home, to onboard from home, to meet a bunch of people that I've never met in real life from home, et cetera, et cetera. But cool all around.
Cool. I mean, I'm also curious. I know that you have had like some unusual circumstances in your home as well. Like you're not only that massively awesome long title at Comcast Spectacor. And I like the way, by the way, that you effortlessly corrected my lead-in. That shows your expertise as a host.
And expertise as a host, and also the amount of times I've had to self-correct giving people the wrong email address. Because my first week was like spectator, special, spectacle. And then I was like, I had to drill it into my own head. So it's all good.
Yep. So, but you're also the husband, right, of a Discovery show host. And that's kind of impacted your dealio, right?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. And I know this is part of why we're talking. But my wife is her name is Jessica Chobot. If you're into gaming, you know who she is. She was the face of IGN for a long time. She was at the old G4. She was the face of Nerdist for a long time. But she's really into paranormal, spooky shit that I am not at all interested in my life. And I don't like being scared. And a year ago, she partnered up with Discovery to launch essentially this paranormal investigation show. So this was a pre-COVID scenario. So season 1 was she was in Cambodia, the Amazon rainforest, Europe, all these really crazy international places, essentially ghost hunting. And then she came home, they wrapped, the show did really well, massive premiere, really big show for the network. So they re-upped again pre-COVID, and then the world shut down, and we were like, okay, well, that's gone. And so as we started to look to, me taking on this new job and the responsibilities that entails, and then looking forward to our son starting second grade, being in a distance learning scenario, we were always operating under the assumption that, well, she'd be home. So all good, we got it covered, no worries. And then like 3 weeks before he started school, Discovery was like, all right, so we're spinning it up again. And we were like, wait, what? And they were like, yeah, we're on the road. To their credit, they put together this incredible like traveling quarantine situation where they like built this caravan and they've been driving around the country shooting all this stuff. So that part's been awesome. But as you kind of inferred earlier, suddenly I was home with this job and a 7-year-old about to start second grade. And they use this opportunity where we've all been together, a captive audience, to convince me to get a puppy. So we also entered a puppy into the equation. We have an old dog and an old cat, but they use this time to break me. Looking back, I'm glad we did. The puppy's awesome and I'm having a great time. But yeah, man, so suddenly I was like, all right, network executive, building a network with people he's never met in real life, second grade teacher, puppy dad, let's do this. And so that's what the last, month and a half has been like, it's been a fascinating process, which I know we'll get into like what that means for me as a human being and my own personal development. But man, I'll just say the takeaways, stay-at-home parents, you're the best. Teachers, you're the best. Like, I recognize that this is an unnatural scenario and maybe things are a little easier or harder depending on what we're talking about. But like by and large, dude, guys like us that get to just go to work every day, we have it easy compared to people that are doing the other shit that I'm doing right now. So, man, thank you to all the teachers and the stay-at-home parents. Like, you're to quote the sage Kevin Durant, you're the real MVPs. You are the real MVPs for sure.
Yeah. It's amazing when you lay it all out like that, though, how, how much unexpected circumstance you had to deal with as you were both starting this, ramp towards dealing with COVID that anybody watching the show has been dealing with, and then also starting this massive new job that I know for a fact because I was, in connection with you just a few months earlier. You didn't really even have on the radar, so. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about do you have a top line strategy on how you deal with like that kind of thing? Because I think a lot of COVID has been like that for, now what I'm hearing all the time is not so much COVID, but people are like 2020. 2020, 2020 has been one of these years where it sure seems to like so many of us that it's just thing after thing after thing. And maybe some of them are good things and some of them are bad things. Hopefully not 100% of them are bad, but there's just a lot of them. So do you have any special insight into how you deal with, what you just described, a little more depth and like when you hear that she's going to go off and, host this show and be gone for months and months at a time, what's the first thing you do?
Yeah, you panic. That's the first through 7 things you do is you panic very much. But then, I think that, guys, I'm 40 and, I spent 20 years like just on that grind, doing my best to get to where I am today. And there's still so much more I want to do and so much higher that I hopefully will go. But that process, I very much embrace that I am in control of my own destiny and I can take everything you throw at me and bring it on and I will own all of it and I will execute all of it. And that is why I am where I am. And what this has taught me, and then I'll get into what the day looks like, is that I can only do what I can do. I'm so okay not being good at all the shit anymore. It's all good, man. Like if things fall through the cracks, if I turn in a C paper at this thing and then a B here, and maybe I don't even have an A this week, okay, it's all good.
Yeah. And that's a big difference, right?
Dude, and that is not something that like I was ever okay with. And by the way, I could have been turning in those C's and B's and whatever, but I was either just too lack of self-awareness or too focused on trying to do all of it that I wasn't paying attention. But yeah, like now, process is important, as you know, with anything in life, process is important. So for me, it's like, I know that fitness is important. Okay, well then I know that the only time I'm going to have to do fitness is very early in the morning. All right, well, from 4:45 to 6:30, that's my window to wake up and like get some fitness in. And then from there, I know the next step is take care of the animals. And then I know the next step is get the kid ready to start school. Now he's on a Zoom call. All right, dad's going to knock out some emails. Then the meetings start on my end. And then you block out time in your calendar in the day to lunch and then for the kid and then do the other Zoom call and whatever. And it just becomes a process. But the application.
You know what? When you say that, it really sparks for me. Like I think of it. One of the ways I put it with people is it's turning it into kind of a math problem. I look at like that expanse of new circumstances that I've got to deal with. And, and it's all interrelated, right? So, if you're going to be getting up at 4:45 every morning to be doing your workout, bummer, but you're just going to have to give up partying, because.
Or in my case, like make some terrible decisions and like suffer a little bit more. But yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think that like, where that new philosophy, though, laying it over the schedule has really helped me is in the past, if I would miss that 4:45 workout, I'd be like, all right, I got to make that up at some point tonight or whatever. And dude, now I'm like, just let it go. And even with some of the work stuff, like, hey man, just let it go. Like the world's not going to end if that thing, unless it is a hypercritical thing that will move the business in some sort of direction that I am obligated to move it in because that is why they hired me, let it go. It'll either happen tomorrow, or if it doesn't happen by the end of the week, you know what? It wasn't that important. And that's just like, that's something I've had to learn. And, 2020 has been really hard for a lot of people, myself included. It's all relative, of course, but in terms of personal growth, like I'm very grateful for this year because it's just taught me to be like better at life, like more present and more accepting of not being in control and not being like extra great at, or at least to the standards that I hold myself to at absolutely everything. Like it's going to be okay if that's not the case.
Yeah. I think we start bending the more rigid rules that we used to set for ourselves in a good way, how crazy is it to get a puppy, right? At the time that all of this is going on. And yet there must, you must have looked at something and said, I'm going to bend this rule. We need a puppy in our lives, and so you go there,
One of the most meaningful things that has been said to me during the pandemic was my son. You're trying to manage, he's 7.5, and you're trying to manage their daily intake of X, Y, and Z to the best of your ability. You're trying to hopefully progress them as human beings during this time. And a lot of that involves managing their emotions. And so he was having like just like a bummer day. He's by his very nature, he's a super happy kid, really loves stuff, and he's very curious, but he's just having kind of a bummer day. And I was like, what's wrong? And I'm paraphrasing here, but he goes, I just kind of feel like I'm missing some childhood right now. And I was like, well, shit, man, that's devastating on like a million levels. But on the parent level, like that is absolutely not the thing you want to hear. And so I grew up in the country in Louisiana around a bunch of animals. And so my head immediately went to like, well, let's get you a puppy. And then, you can have that best friend. You can have this new friend in the house that you get to take care of. You can learn some responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. But like you can create new memories with this friend that will live with us, was my intention. And that has really panned out nicely. They are literal best friends. This is them every day while he does school. And then this is him at night. Like he'll be taking a bath and then the dog just hangs out and watches him, So they love each other. And it's been really good. It's his friend that he doesn't get to be around. And if he can't be around his other friends, like it's been such an amazing, I don't want to say alternative, but just an addition to his life.
And were you, did you learn from that you were incorrect about the chaos that you thought it would bring? Like I look at that dog and I bet it doesn't poop. It's never, interrupted a conference call. Yeah.
Like I'm like she's probably pooing in here right now. No, it definitely all the chaos came. It definitely, she brought it all with her. But what I learned was the joy that it gives him. It's like that stuff is so worth it. Like I'm not even annoyed by that stuff anymore because I know how much fun he's having with her.
Yeah, totally. I I actually have a 4-year-old and a 17-year-old, and the 17-year-old it's a similar but different story to what you just described with your son. She graduated high school. She was one of this class that, didn't get to finish the last part of her school year. Probably actually a lot of us would be like, woohoo. But she can
went to my senior year, to be honest.
I know, right? She's unfortunately, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's fortunately, she's very bookish. And so she's kind of like, I didn't get anything out of that last few months of school, none of the prom stuff, none of the graduation stuff. And when it came to going off to college, which we're lucky enough that she's able to do, she was like, she's going to a college in the area. And so we were assuming it was crazy to actually try to pay for her to go off and live near the college, because if she's going to be taking classes from home, she might as well take them in our home, right?
Right.
And she said to us, and this is the thing I think is similar to the story you told about your son, I feel like I have had none of the signifiers of moving from, youth into adulthood. Mm-hmm. And if I don't get to move out of this house, regardless of where I'm taking digital classes from, I'm going to lose my mind and I'm going to fail all my classes. I know I can't. I've got to have something that says something happened here and you're growing up,
Yeah.
She, I think, said it a lot more eloquently and a lot shorter than I did. But, it's the same thing, is that like the COVID changes the things that we get satisfaction from. Mm-hmm. And so I think it also intensifies and changes the things that are within our grasp that we do for satisfaction, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for me, it made me bend that rule, like I also in the course of that heard from a number of potential roomies and their parents that she was considering, the same exact story from other 17, 18-year-olds was, we got to go, man. We got to do something. Yeah, I know it seems ridiculous to you parents, but we're losing our minds, And when I heard that enough, I was like, okay, I'm going to bend that rule. I'm going to be... And I'm lucky enough to be able to do that, And
I'm looking forward to, like, we have a generation of kids now, kids being 17, 18, who know what it's like to be in a pivotal moment of their life and not be able to make a decision. So I think these are people that are going to push things forward, that are going to change things, that are going to just, freaking bend the process and challenge the process. Because they know what it's like to be told no, and the whole world tells them no, and they literally can't move forward. I can't wait until she's out in the world, like, making real decisions for, like, her work and her friends and the world. Because I think they're going to be some game changers, man. Like, they're going to have a fire under them. Like, guys like you and I, maybe your situation is a little different. Like, I kind of ambled into college, and it was definitely a different experience, but it's just another year, and then whatever. Like, man, these kids are going to come out of this experience with like a fire, I think, that certainly I didn't have, because they know what it's like for the world to shut down. And they know that time is finite and things can change. And we never had that. For us, it was like, there's always tomorrow. And now it's like, is there? Is there? So we should do the stuff today if we can,
Yeah, definitely. It's funny because it changed, there's a level on which I have learned a lot about myself that I never would have thought there was that much to learn at this point in my life, with regard to, my work, for example. You shared some about your relationship to your work. I didn't realize until we got into this how profoundly I don't make advertising because I love advertising. For me, it turns out that I make advertising because it's like this petri dish of a million different types of creative opportunities, lots of different types of people, lots of different channels to work in. And I enjoy being in that collaborative process of me mixing all that stuff together in the lab and being there when it explodes in your face and laughing with your coworkers. And like, that's, just all gone, right? I mean, like, and so I've been really struggling to stay on top of it and feel motivated,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm getting to spend more time with my wife and family at home, and I realized that I really enjoy that and that I learn a lot all the way through the day. I even learn some of the things that I think of as at the core of my job. I learn them even better having to wrestle with being at home and not having the right tools and running out of time on this. The challenges are higher,
Yeah.
Do you find any of that resonates with you at all?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, we both have, before I put on the suit in the recent years, like, yeah, we both have a creative background and like for all the efficiencies and the flexibility of work from home, nothing beats a good whiteboard session with a bunch of people that are looking to change the world, and like, I miss having that moment in a room with people. So I feel all of those things. And then I have obviously the added element of having really not met many people that I work with that I now talk to multiple times a day. And then add the pressure of building a network and all of those things. But one of the things, the really joyful experiences that I've taken from this was, so on the marketing side, you and I have launched 1,000 campaigns and 1,000 marketing beats and done 1 million of this and a trillion of that. I never take any of that for granted because every story is different and every story is special and every audience is a great audience. And I truly view it that way. But I think somewhere along the way, I maybe started taking the people that I make stuff with for granted. I'd be like, yeah, like I work with Matt. He's the best. Then period. That's the end of the sentence. I acknowledge that, but like, we're going to do a cool thing together. But the delivery of the asset and the audience reception was what was the thing that I think I got the most joy from. And for me here, and there's an added element because G4 is a homecoming for me. And I know how much it meant to me when I was younger to be there. I know how much it meant to an entire generation of people who never felt safe being outwardly geeky or like flying the gaming flag. And we were the first people to tell them it's okay. And so so there's that. And I understand, like, I'm getting goosebumps just remembering what it felt like to be a part of that back in the day. Be a part of it again is something special, but like, we've released 2 pieces of content now. And the first thing that we ever released was just a teaser that the network was coming back. And I remember watching a cut of that, a very early cut of that. And at the end of the cut that we have like kind of a music sting and it's like from the old network and it buttoned a lot of the shows and stuff. And dude, I just started crying. Like, I mean, openly weeping over a piece of content that I have done a version of 1 trillion times. And I remember like FaceTiming, like a group FaceTiming like 10 of the people that I work with that worked on that. And just, I so desperately needed to express to them how special it was that we were doing this and that I was doing it with them. And like, that's just not something that gets lost when you're in an office every day and you take people for granted, and so it's been really cool to like, I heard this thing the other day and it really nailed it for me is we're not working from home, we're living at work. And I feel like I'm starting to see the people I work with, like they're my family. And like, these are that was a big moment in my life. And I was sharing it with like family members I was doing it with. And like, that was awesome, dude. Like, yeah, you take for granted when you're in an office, you can, hey Matt, I got this crazy idea. Do you have 15 minutes? I just want to like ideate. Let's just go throw some stuff at the wall. When you have to create and collaborate in this environment, it's so much more meaningful, right? And like,
Yeah.
I appreciate what I'm able to get from that. And then seeing the audience respond is now it's icing on the cake, but I think it's the making of it now is like really important to me again. And that's such a cool thing,
Yeah, definitely. Probably most people would look at like the last 150 years since the Industrial Revolution. And I think we all have looked at that and said, we're in this, age of incredible growth and innovation and success, and then came COVID, and, now we're entering the dark ages, But as soon as I thought that, I thought, what if I'm completely wrong? What if, even though we've had all the benefits of modern, post-industrial revolution culture, growing and changing and innovating, but it's also to some degree, separating us from realizations like the one that you just described of the passion of the hands-on process, and it's creating, greenhouse gases that are destroying our environment, and we're creating digital tools that, are making us work 24 hours a day. What if we've actually been in the dark ages, and COVID is actually bringing us into a new age of enlightenment? I know that's pretty freaky.
Yeah.
But
I'm on board though, man. Like whatever, like you put up, I'm with you. I agree with you.
Because there's so many things that I think, even though they're hard, so many things that will come out of it that, as we've, been talking about, make us better and stronger and more in touch with ourselves and more able to help others,
Yeah, dude, I agree. There was a picture of like, this is not the actual picture, but it should serve for this conversation. There's like a picture of like a deer running through Times Square, right? But like insert some other major city where a deer shouldn't be running through in 2020, and it was running through. And like every time we've ever seen an image like that in fiction, it's always been in some post-apocalyptic scenario where, the world has been dead for many, many years and humans are underground or terraforming Mars or whatever it is. And I saw that and had a very similar kind of realization where I was like, no, we're seeing that now, and the world is still around and we're all still around. This is a sign that like we should be okay changing certain things. And the work stuff aside, man, because you are absolutely right. My wife and I were already very heavily invested in moving to Europe pre-COVID. And it's still very much, in the works. We've flown out a couple of times, like investigate different things, and we're gonna probably land in the Netherlands. I'm 40 right now. 50-year-old Blair is gonna own like a coffee shop with bike rentals, like in some tiny hamlet in the Netherlands.
Have you told Spectacor yet, or are you announcing it here?
As they are the internet service provider of this chat, probably. Yeah. Damn it, now they know. But you investigate other cultures, and even you're absolutely right about the working. Like, dude, like a work week in the Netherlands post 30 hours is a ludicrous proposition to most people. Whereas here I'm like, oh boy, I got it under the wire this week at 50 hours. And everybody's like, oh, it's pretty good. And there it's like, it's a totally different thing. So yeah, man, it's, at least here in America, politics aside, hopefully this is teaching a lot of people, we can do things differently. There are a lot of other places thriving that are doing things a lot differently than we have been taught to do. I'm with you on that.
Cool. So, and the G4 reunion, is it a reunion? Are there a lot of people there that have been, that you worked with before?
There are a number of people that have come back in various capacities. It's been really cool too, we all went out and did other things. And to see everybody kind of come back, it's a very small group, a core group, but it's a different world now. You need different perspectives, you need different, ideas and things like that. But yeah, like a guy went and ran like development for WWE for many years and came back. I went to the agency side and then IGN and then came back. And so it's been a pretty neat reunion. There's about 5 or 6 of us kind of in and around my level, my peer group that have come back, and it's cool, man. It's cool to reminisce, and also it's, we're really starting to staff up now. So we're bringing in quite a few people, and it's really neat to bring in people that either grew up with the brand and have a certain affinity for it, but have their own interpretation of what it was, what it is, what it should be. And it's also been really neat to bring in an entirely different group of people that had no idea what it was. And so the perspectives in conversations that I have is really cool. So like it is a reunion in some way, but it's a reunion in which like only 25% of the family ever talked to each other before, So it's been pretty cool. And we're very excited. I think it's never been a better time for something like this to come back. I think that gaming has never been bigger. Obviously, we all know that, but I also think it's never been more divided. I think there's, every single tiny little thing you would want to do in gaming, you can find that single tiny little thing in that single tiny little space. And I think that, the world's looking for a place to collaborate and collectively come together. And we're viewing it as a clubhouse where you can come in and you love all of these things. And we're kind of the hub for that. And we're pretty excited to bring it back for sure.
And imagine the power, in the coming full circle to the, wait, who am I again? Lesson, imagine the power of the new people and the old people creating and launching this network right at the time that you're all discovering, like a fresh you.
Yeah, dude, this is awesome. Thank you for providing me with something different. We're always looking for something different every day. This is rad, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Well, we'll have you back once you're up and running and we've got something real to talk about.
I love it, man. Thanks again, Matt. Anytime.
Bye-bye. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Listen In. You'll always find us streaming on LinkedIn, along with live chat comments from myself and guests. After the stream is over, we archive the show here on our LinkedIn page for Ayzenberg. And you'll also find the episodes at AListDaily.com. So have a great week. And as always, keep your ears on.